No world leader has ever done this, not once, not in 92 years of World Cup history, not in 1966 when England hosted, not in 2006 when Germany hosted, not in 1998 when France organized the tournament. Not a single head of state in the entire history of the competition has done what happened here. The president of the host country threatened to pull his own cities out of his own World Cup. Not once, not twice, not three times, 6 times, 6 separate occasions across 5 months when Donald Trump stood in front of microphones or cameras and told the world he was considering moving World Cup matches away from American cities. San Francisco, Seattle, Boston, each one threatened, each one named publicly, each one described as potentially too dangerous, too radical, or too left-wing to be trusted with the greatest sporting event on earth. And in doing so, he created something that football's historians will be studying for decades: the first World Cup in history where the host nation's own government became one of the tournament's biggest threats. 32 days from the opening match, FIFA has pushed back. British MPs have called for the USA to be banned entirely. The cities are still on the schedule. The matches will go ahead. But the story of how we got here, the threats, the standoffs, the extraordinary moment when a vice president of FIFA said football will survive their regime, their government, and their slogans. Survive their regime. A FIFA official said those exact words about the president of the country hosting the majority of the tournament and did not walk them back. FIFA also issued a formal statement. It said safety and security are obviously the government's responsibility, and they decide what is in the best interest for public safety. That statement was careful. It acknowledged government responsibility while making clear that the final decisions on host cities remain with FIFA. It was the language of an organization holding its position while avoiding a direct confrontation it couldn't afford. But Trump wasn't finished. 3 weeks later, on October 14th, he turned his attention to Boston. The occasion was a reporter's question about Boston's mayor, a Democrat he described as radical left. His answer was delivered with the same casual certainty as the September comments. He said we could take them away. He said the mayor was not good. He loved the people of Boston, but the matches could be moved. 7 World Cup matches are scheduled at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough near Boston. Contracts signed, planning in place for years, thousands of tickets sold, fans from across the world with flights and hotels booked, and the president saying we could take them away because he disagreed with the political affiliation of the city's mayor. Then came Seattle, October 25th. Trump stood next to FIFA's president at a White House press conference and said it directly. He said, if we think there's a problem in Seattle, where you have a very, very liberal communist mayor, I would say, Gianni, can I say we will move? He said he thought you can't have this, but if we think there's going to be trouble, we're going to move the event to someplace where it's going to be appreciated and safe. He named the newly elected mayor of Seattle specifically. He called her a liberal communist. He used the word communist about the mayor of an American city hosting a World Cup, standing next to the president of FIFA, with cameras present. FIFA's president, standing at the same podium, said, yeah, I think safety and security is the #1 priority. He did not contradict Trump. He did not repeat what his own vice president had said in London about regimes and slogans. He smiled, he nodded, he said safety is important. That moment, those 2 men standing together, one threatening to move matches, the other not objecting, told you everything about the dynamic at the center of this World Cup's governance. FIFA needed America. America knew it. And the result was a press conference where FIFA's governing body watched the host nation's president describe a World Cup host city's mayor as a communist and said nothing in reply. Now, here is the part that takes this story to a completely different level, because the threats didn't stay within American politics. In January 2026, 21 members of the British Parliament signed a cross-party motion, not a letter to UEFA, not a private communication to FIFA. A formal parliamentary motion entered into the House of Commons record, calling for the USA to be banned from major world sporting events, including the 2026 World Cup itself. 21 elected members of the British Parliament calling for the USA to be stripped of hosting rights. The motion described Trump's actions as undermining the rules-based international order. It said sporting events should not be used to legitimize or normalize violations of international law by powerful states. One of the MPs who signed it said directly, "FIFA says it's not political, then it gives awards to Donald Trump." That quote cuts through everything. FIFA's founding principle is political neutrality. It is the reason FIFA can work across every nation on Earth, regardless of what their governments do to each other. It is the reason North Korea and South Korea can both play in the same tournament. It is the reason Iran and the United States can be drawn in the same group. The neutrality is not just a rule, it is the architecture on which the entire institution is built. And then FIFA created a new award and gave it, at the World Cup draw, to the president of the host nation, a sitting head of state whose administration had implemented travel bans affecting 4 qualified nations, whose government was in active conflict with another qualified nation, whose president had threatened to move matches from cities he considered politically unsuitable. That is the man who received the first FIFA Peace Prize. FIFA says it's not political, then it gives awards to Donald Trump. This is a good moment. If you've been following this channel through multiple stories and you understand exactly why these pieces connect, subscribe now, because the next video covers what FIFA is doing internally in response to all of this. The internal debates, the ICE moratorium discussions, the conversations that are happening behind closed doors 32 days from kickoff. You'll want to see it the moment it goes up. Subscribe. The button is right there. Now, here is the legal reality that FIFA never fully explained in public. Because Trump's threats were not just politically problematic, they were legally baseless. The President of the United States has no authority to move World Cup matches. The agreements governing every host city are contracts signed directly between FIFA and the local municipality, not with the federal government, not with the presidency. Trump cannot cancel those contracts. He cannot amend them. He cannot unilaterally decide that Boston is out and substitute a different city. Only FIFA has that power. And FIFA made it clear through multiple statements and through the vice president's comments in London that it intended to exercise that power independently of political pressure. The host cities themselves understood this. Boston's host committee continued planning. Seattle's continued planning. San Francisco's continued planning. Because the legal framework gave them protection that the president's words did not override. But here is what the legal reality doesn't fix: the damage that was done. Every time Trump made a threat, it generated global headlines. Every time those headlines ran in football publications across Europe and South America and Africa and Asia, they added to the accumulating picture of a World Cup surrounded by instability and confrontation. Every fan in Manchester or Munich or Buenos Aires who read that the president of the host country was threatening to move matches, not for safety reasons backed by evidence, but for political reasons backed by disagreement about a mayor's party affiliation, updated their assessment of whether this tournament was worth traveling to. The threats didn't move any matches, but they moved something more valuable. They moved perception. And perception is what fills hotels, books flights, and turns a football tournament into a global festival rather than an event that happens to be taking place in a country where the welcome feels conditional. Here is the bigger picture that ties everything together. The Trump threats are not an isolated chapter in this World Cup story. They are part of the same narrative that runs through the travel bans, the $15,000 visa bond, the ICE operations in host cities, the empty hotel rooms, the pricing the president himself said he wouldn't pay, and the 80% of American hoteliers who called this tournament a non-event. Each element in isolation is manageable. A presidential comment here, a visa policy there, a pricing decision that overreached. Managed separately, with time and resources, each of these problems has a solution, but they did not arrive together. They arrived together. They arrived as a single, sustained signal to the international football community, traveling fans from Europe, from South America, from Africa, from Asia, that the United States in 2026 is a complicated place to visit, that the welcome is not unconditional. that there are cities the president of the country might try to remove from the schedule because of the political views of their mayors, that there are 50 countries whose fans must post $15,000 before entering, and that there are agents enforcing immigration law in the same cities where the stadiums are, and that the president, who was supposed to be the face of American hospitality for this tournament, told a newspaper he wouldn't pay a ticket either. That accumulated signal is the reason FIFA's own senior executives are discussing whether to ask for an ice moratorium. It is the reason a workers' union at SoFi Stadium is threatening to strike over safety guarantees. It is the reason 80% of hoteliers are looking at empty rooms and calling the tournament a non-event. And it is the reason that when you look at Toronto's hotel booking numbers and compare them to Dallas's, the difference is not explained by the number of matches. It is explained by the accumulated decision of thousands of individual fans who chose the host city that felt welcoming over the one where the president had publicly threatened to pull matches from cities he didn't politically agree with. 32 days from the opening match, the threats have not been retracted, the matches have not moved, the football will happen, and the story of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the one that will be written in books and studied in universities and referenced in every future debate about who should host the tournament, will include the unprecedented moment when the president of the host country stood in front of the cameras and said he might move his own World Cup. That happened, it is documented, and no result on the pitch in July fully erases it. So here's the question I want to leave you with. After everything Trump threatened and everything FIFA said in response, do you think FIFA handled this correctly? Should they have been stronger earlier? Or was the vice president's comment about regimes and slogans exactly the right response? Drop your answer in the comments. You have been watching football long enough to have a view on this that matters.